Liverpool are in Milan, but Mo Salah isn't.
I think he's as deluded as he is arrogant to think that his performances since the back end of last season, really, when his form tailed off, warrant a guaranteed starting place.
You know, I'd be disappointed as a teammate because ultimately he's thrown us under the bus as well. They're going through a tough period, and you want your main player to be a good person and be humble. But to be able to throw your manager and the football club under a bus, I thought was very, very sad to see. And it'll be interesting to see what Liverpool react and how they react come the January window.
Well, I think certainly he is actively trying to find a way out. I wouldn't go as far as to say Liverpool are trying to force Mo Salah out of the football club. I think they just want him to get back to form. It feels to me now that Saudi Arabia in January is a distinct possibility.
Something has to change, and you know, whatever that is in terms of Mo Salah apologising to the football club or leaving the football club come January, then that's Liverpool's prerogative.
It wouldn't surprise me if Mo Salah never plays for Liverpool again.
Hello everyone, yes, we'll get into Mo Salah in just a little bit. He hasn't gone with Liverpool to the Champions League to play in Italy this midweek. I think it'll be difficult to match the takedown of Mo Salah that Jamie Carragher produced last night, but Charlie Adam and Alex Crook will give it a very good go, I'm sure. And talking of people who think it's all about me, Crook, where's the Amorim-ometer this morning?
6th in the table, a point off the top 4. No issues here this morning.
Who were the goal scorers last night? Can you remember?
Just about, yeah. Bruno got a couple, didn't he? Brian and Bumo, and someone else.
Is it true you had to look it up this morning just to make sure because you were in the pub last night watching it?
Yes, that is accurate. Yeah, we had a day at the races yesterday. Two of our pub regulars, Dean Ashton and Scott Minto, made the trip down to sunny Sussex, and yeah, we had a good day.
Good stuff. Charlie and I went to Blackpool together this weekend, not for a romantic break or to go on the Big Dipper, but to watch Mark Hughes' Carlisle take on Blackpool in the FA Cup. And it was a good game, wasn't it? Mark Hughes is a bit of a hero of mine, Charlie. I love the passion he still has. I mean, you have to have passion to manage Carlisle United because every trip is the long-haul trip in a camper van. But he was kicking off with Ian Ever. He even at 4-1 down, he was still giving it. I loved it.
Yeah, and I think that's a lot of the thing for him was, you know, he's managed at the top and I worked with him at Stoke, but to come back to the National League to give it, he must love the game, and obviously he does love the game. And like he said in his interview, he looks forward to the match days, and that burning desire still there, the enthusiasm. You know, that bit of a spat with Evo was good for everybody. But you know, the real main objective for them is to get promoted from the National League because it's been a tough 2 years for Carlisle as a football club, and you know, they did okay, but in the end, Blackpool were too good for them.
You're getting confused with all your clubs then, weren't you? You were trying to sort of meld them all together.
More clubs than Tiger Woods.
In round 3, Macclesfield's reward for getting through is to take on the holders Crystal Palace. Villa Spurs is a big tie. I think it was a similar tie last year as well. Manchester City welcome Exeter. Great for Exeter. They need that cash. Pompey welcome Arsenal. Big tie. And Manchester United, they've got a chance to do a bit of giant killing. They take on Brighton. Let's quickly get stuck into Manchester United, who won last night, before we talk the big stories of the week. Look, Manchester United won 4-1. They were good in the game. It was a second half onslaught, really, from United, who are level on points with Chelsea now. But Wolves, my God. How much stock do you put by, Charlie, bearing in mind Wolves haven't won for 227 days and don't look like they're going to win again?
Yeah, it's a tough period. You know, they're in a team that's, you know, in a tough place, losing their best players in the summer, Cunha, Nuri, not being able to replace them. You know, for all the goals that Strand Larsen scored last season, can't buy a goal now, and the team and the club are in a tough place. Supporters are protesting, didn't come into the stadium until after 15 minutes yesterday. So there's not a good feeler in Wolves as a football club at the moment, and obviously change of manager, and Rob has to try and, you know, build confidence or get points somewhere. But at the moment, it doesn't look like they're going to get any. And I thought Manchester United were excellent. There's been a lot of pressure on Amorim as a coach and the players, but if they can keep Cunha, keep Mbeumo, keep Fernandes fit, then ultimately they're going to give ourselves a great chance of qualifying for that Champions League.
The fans are disillusioned, and the players look that way too, Crook. Wolves were a disgrace from a defensive point of view. The fact that Bruno is able to slip, do a bit of breakdancing, get up again, then pop the ball into the back of the net in the penalty area before scoring. I mean, do we think that Rob Edwards is already regretting his decision to take this job at Wolverhampton Wanderers?
No, because I think he went in with his eyes wide open. He knew the lack of quality in the squad. I think there's an argument that Wolves might end up being the worst team the Premier League has ever seen. I'm not convinced now they're going to get beyond Derby's record low tally of 11 points. I thought it was really interesting that the decision to take off Strand Larsen was cheered by the home supporters. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, they should have snapped Newcastle's hands off when they offered £65 million for him, because they're never going to get an offer like that again.
They did get their first goal since October the 26th, though, so positives. Charlie, strong performance from Mason Mount. If he stays fit, he could be crucial for Manchester United, couldn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we've seen what Mason can do, Chelsea and that time with Frank, been hampered with injuries, hasn't he? And that's the key now, that he can stay fit and play regular. And if he can do that and he can get that performances, and then that will obviously help Manchester United. I see players or people saying for England at the moment, I just think you have to concentrate on your club football, staying fit and available and seeing what's happened, because England's midfield is so difficult to get into. But what it will do is, if Mason Mount can stay fit, will give Manchester United the opportunity to qualify for the Champions League, because he's a terrific player. Technically, he's very good, got good energy, good athleticism. But the focus for him is Manchester United first and foremost, and then the rest will take care of itself.
Okay, let's get stuck into some of the midweek action now. There is only one place to start. Liverpool are in Milan, but Mo Salah isn't. Inter Milan take on Liverpool tonight, and Inter Milan's record against English opposition is pretty stellar, and their home record is pretty stellar as well in the Champions League. 18 games unbeaten in that competition at San Siro. Mo Salah has declared war on Arne Slot and Liverpool. First up, do either of you have any sympathy with the player? Crook?
No. in a one-word answer, I said it over the course of the weekend. I think he's been very selfish with his actions. I think he's obviously turned on the manager, but he's also thrown his own teammates under the bus, to use his own quote. He's thrown the owners under the bus, and I think he's also disrespected those Liverpool supporters. I think he's as deluded as he is arrogant to think that his performances since the back end of last season, really, when his form tailed off, warrant a guaranteed starting place. And that quote about, basically because of what I've done in the past, I should be nailed on to start in the team. That's not really how football works, is it? You have to pick players on form. It's not a surprise to me. Liverpool owners have effectively come out and backed Arne Slot in what is a war between manager and star player. And it wouldn't surprise me if Mo Salah never plays for Liverpool again.
Charlie?
No, I think Crook's hit the nail on the head. I was disappointed I'd be disappointed as a teammate, because ultimately he's thrown us under the bus as well. Szoboszlai comes out and does an interview and says we need to stick together. We talk about things in the dressing room. There's harsh words being said, and then he comes out and does that. And like you say, it's all about me, isn't it? And I was disappointed with his comments. For the manager as well, because they're going through a tough period, and you want your main player to be a good person and be humble, but to be able to throw your manager and the football club under a bus, I thought was very, very sad to see. And he obviously has been left out the squad tonight. I don't expect him to play at the weekend, and he'll go to the African nations for a few weeks next week, and that story will then die down. But it'll be interesting to see what Liverpool react and how they react come the January window. I think the Saudis would love to have Mo Salah in the league, but it will still take a lot of money to get him out, and maybe that's something that him and his agent want to try to engineer away from the football club. But hugely disappointed.
Charlie, you've been in that dressing room. You've been in dressing rooms with big stars. You've been a big star. You know what it's like to be the main player in a dressing room. You've also been a manager on the other side of it. Do you think Liverpool now, for the good, of the dressing room and the good of the team going forward should try to move him on in the January transfer window?
Well, I think as a football club, the hierarchy will look at it and think what is best for the group in the football club going forward. The players will always, they'll have an opinion unless somebody's willing to speak out and say to Mo Salah, we're not happy with what you are. We've seen pictures. He looked happy in training yesterday.
Yeah.
So again, it's what discussions the players have had. Of course, they'll be disappointed, but who's got the character to step up and say to Mo Salah, listen, you're out of order. We're not happy.
Does
But
someone
we
need
don't
to do
know.
that in that dressing room, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think the captain, I think one of the leaders should step up and say, listen, if they're not happy with what his comments were, then they have to say it in a private meeting in the dressing room, speaking to each other about it. But ultimately, we don't know how they feel or what is going on inside the football club at the moment. But his actions over the weekend were disappointing.
Because he could be sitting there thinking to himself, I can get away with saying this because everybody feels the same way.
Exactly. We don't know what other players are thinking. Each individual's in a different situation, how they're feeling. Andy Robertson's not played. Chiesa's not played. The lads that have not been playing are probably a little bit as frustrated, but what they've not done is come out in the media and gave it the whole spiel about, why have I been dropped and I'm going through, I've been thrown under the bus. Performances dictate. And like Crookie said, if you've not played to the level that we as supporters or on the outside expect, of course you're going to get criticism. That's part of being a global superstar, is that you're probably the first in the team sheet to get it because of your performances that you've done previously. But here and now, the team is struggling, and the manager's made a decision, and he's the most important person in the football club, is the manager. He has to make the big decisions, and it'd be easy not to make the decision and just leave him in the team. But Arne Slot's made the decision not to play him, and that's big for a manager, and fair play to him for that.
Yeah, and the reason he's decided to do that is because tactically it wasn't working with him in the team. They lost a lot of games this season, and he is one of those who doesn't track back and defend. The team was not secure enough. It's conceding too many goals. They're trying to develop a system where they create more chances because last year Arne Slot felt that the team didn't win enough games by big enough margins. You couldn't keep winning games by 1 goals here and there and dramatic winners. So he wanted to create a team that had more adventure and created more opportunity. In doing so, it's left them a little bit more open at the back. So he's tried to tighten things up by making it more compact in the middle of the park, which means there isn't really a role for a Mo Salah unless he's going to play as one of the 10s or the false 9, which he isn't going to do, and they want Wirtz to do that. So he is tactically just out of the picture at the moment, and sometimes you have to accept that as a player. But what are you hearing, Crook, in terms of his future going forward? Are Liverpool actively seeking suitors, and is he actively trying to find a way out?
Well, I think certainly he is actively trying to find a way out. I think the feeling with insiders at Liverpool is this was a premeditated thing to try and force through a move. Obviously, he's fallen out with Arne Slot, and as I've already said, the owners have come down very much on the side of the manager. We know there's interest from Saudi Arabia, Al Hilal in particular. I think my colleague Ben Jacobs reported yesterday there's interest from clubs in the MLS as well. I wouldn't go as far as say Liverpool are trying to force Mo Salah out of the football club. I think they just want him to get back to form, and actually the hierarchy there thought his absence from the team would be temporary. He would eventually be put back in and hopefully get back from their point of view to what he was doing last season. But it feels to me now that Saudi Arabia in January is a distinct possibility. And Charlie's mentioned there it's going to take a lot of money to get him out of the club. I think that is the case, but there are similarities here with what Cristiano Ronaldo did in that bombshell interview with Piers Morgan. And obviously Manchester United ended up terminating his contract on the proviso the Saudis took on most of his wages or all of his wages. So it'll be fascinating to see how this plays out once the window is open.
Do you know what's really fascinating for me is the fact that Arne Slot appears to have not known anything about this. He seems to suggest that actually, and he was talking on Monday night ahead of Liverpool's clash with Inter Milan, that he had absolutely no inclination that his relationship with Mo Salah had broken down. Listen to this.
We've let him know that he's not traveling with us. So that was the only communication that's been there from us to him. Of course, before Saturday, the two of us have spoken a lot. Sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. And then your second question was?
Do you feel your relationship has broken down with him?
No, that's not the way I feel. But he has the right to feel how he feels things. I haven't felt that at all till Saturday evening for sure, because I think when I didn't play him anymore, usually players don't like the manager then that much. But he was very respectful to my staff members, to his teammates, and he trained really hard. So to an extent, it was a surprise for me that when I heard after the game that he gave the comments he gave.
Now, I don't know if he's playing a game there, Charlie, or he's sort of being absolutely genuine. And usually when you speak to Arne Slot, and we've had the privilege of doing that a number of times over the course of the last 18 months, he's pretty upfront and honest about everything. Are you buying the fact that he was surprised that Mo Salah said their relationship had broken down?
I think that there'll have been discussions with manager. I think if Mo Salah had been left out one game, that Arne Slot would have pulled him into the office to say that he was going to leave him out. And after the second game, Mo Salah would have knocked his door to say, like, listen, what's the situation? And then that becomes a discussion and whatever they've been saying. But I think Arne Slot's trying to protect the situation by not saying that he knew nothing about the fallout or the relationship being broken. I think he didn't want to add any fuel to what is going on. But it's a tough place, and do we want Mo Salah to leave the Premier League? Absolutely not. I think he's been a world-class player for the last 8 years at Liverpool. He's been the talisman, but something has to change, and whatever that is in terms of Mo Salah apologising to the football club or leaving the football club come January, then that's Liverpool's prerogative, and the manager have to sort that out, and that's why he's the leader of Liverpool Football Club. It's now his decision. The hierarchy of backed him on that decision, and we'll see how long it lasts.
Great footballers, great superstars, legends of the game, rarely get the send-off I think that they deserve. I'm even going back to, if you go back to Steven Gerrard when he was trying to leave Liverpool, or his contract had come to an end, I don't think he wanted to leave at that particular point. And then when he did leave, it didn't end in the way that he wanted it to. Do you know what I mean? I think everybody hoped that he was going to leave with the league title, and it didn't quite work out like that. And then the next season, they ended up losing towards the end of the season. It was just a bit untidy. Wayne Rooney leaving Manchester United, not the way he wanted it to happen. Ronaldo leaving Manchester United. Roy Keane leaving Manchester United. Sometimes when you've got these big personalities, the exit doesn't quite work unless it's managed absolutely perfectly. It's going to be very difficult for us to get Crook out the door. Imagine what he'll be like when we try to move him on into pastures. He'll be kicking off and all sorts of stuff. It'd be outrageous. So listen, I suppose the biggest question now is about what happens to Liverpool going forward, Crook, and whether or not Arne Slot actually is helped by this situation, because the club is rallying around him, and actually, Jamie Carragher's evisceration of Mo Salah actually, I think, pulls a lot of public opinion behind Slot. If you speak to Liverpool supporters, I did the phone in yesterday morning on the White and Jordan show, and everybody, in the main, 80% of them are like, well, this is Liverpool Football Club, we have to back the manager. So it's interesting to see whether or not everyone falls in behind Arne Slot and he gets emboldened by it, or this is symptomatic of a dressing room that isn't quite convinced with the way that the changes have been implemented this season.
Yeah, I think it's probably a combination of the two. Clearly, there are players there who are not happy, and then standards have dropped. There's no question about that. I have seen rumours that Virgil van Dijk walked past Mo Salah in the mix zone and said, let him speak, which, if that is true, suggests that Mo Salah is certainly not the only unhappy player. But I think it was always going to be a difficult transitional period with so many new signings coming to the football club. I think that brings a little bit of resentment from the players who did so well last season and won that second Premier League title, because they know that these players are coming in to try and take their places. I do think also Mo Salah has been very affected by what happened to Diogo Jota. They were very close. And again, you've said it several times, Sam, over the course of the season. Whenever we talk about Liverpool, we have to caveat it with that tragedy that took place in the summer that I think the dressing room are still reeling from. what this has done is left them a little bit short of options when it comes to attacking players in Milan, because Cody Gakpo hasn't travelled. Federico Chiesa, I think, has done pretty well as an impact substitute. He's not been fit enough to travel either. So it's a difficult game, and it's going to be made much more difficult by the fact they don't have those players available.
Absolutely. And they haven't exactly been pulling up trees. They've lost 6 of their 15 Premier League games this season. In fact, 8 of their 15 Premier League games have ended without victory for Liverpool this season. And bearing in mind that they were on the march to the title at this time last year, it is a stark difference from the Reds. Right, that's it for Mo Salah and Liverpool. Let's take a look at some of the other sides in European action this week, starting with the Chelsea. Difficult game away in Bergamo on Tuesday night for Chelsea. They play Atalanta, and it's been a difficult week for Enzo Maresca. Draw with Arsenal was widely seen as a positive, I think, bearing in mind they were down to 10 men for so long. But then they turned in a terrible performance at Leeds, then went away to Bournemouth and it was 0-0, which, okay, drawing with Bournemouth is not a disgrace because Bournemouth actually are a very good team, but they're on a terrible run at the moment, and you would expect Chelsea to at least show up and try and get something from that match. Has that week been damaging for Maresca, or does this just show where Chelsea are, Charlie? They're always going to be a little bit up and down.
Yeah, I think it just shows where Chelsea are as a group and as a club. Young players trying to make their way in the Premier League, and the performances are up and down. But you know, going to Bournemouth is not an easy place to get a result. And but let's say getting an injury to Delap and is a blow. But no, I think this is Chelsea at the moment in terms of inconsistent. They'll win a few games and they'll drop a couple of points. But I like Maresca. I think he's done a good job there in keeping it together. But when Chelsea are good, they're very good. And you know, Cole Palmer obviously is a huge miss for them, and you know, he's obviously missing again. But going to Italy to get a result against Atalanta, 14th in the Serie A, it gives them an opportunity to win another game in the Champions League and be secure with where they're going, you know.
Yeah, Palmer getting back to full fitness and being able to play regularly is going to be a massive thing for Chelsea, especially when they don't seem to have that sort of killer instinct striker, not helped by the fact that Delap is facing another lengthy spell on the sidelines with a shoulder injury. He's had a stuttering start, hasn't he, since he walked through the door at Stamford Bridge, Crook?
Yeah, he's not played 90 minutes for Chelsea yet, which obviously is a big problem for him. I know that he's devastated by this latest injury setback, not least because it feels like there was an opportunity for him, if he could stay fit, if he could start scoring goals for Chelsea, to force his way into England's World Cup plans. Obviously, we're looking for an understudy to Harry Kane. Ollie Watkins still not in great form, but it feels like that opportunity is slowly slipping by when it comes to Delap. And again, it leaves Chelsea short, doesn't it? Because it was interesting that João Pedro was left on the bench when Delap was injured. They brought on Mark Guiu instead. I do wonder if they're potentially regretting sending Nicholas Jackson out on loan, because goals from Chelsea strikers, as you've already highlighted in the last few weeks, have been in short supply. And actually, I was with a Chelsea fan yesterday, and he said to me, we may as well have lost to Arsenal and beaten the other two. You know, that point doesn't mean anything now because of what's happened in the subsequent couple of games. But I guess it just underlines that Chelsea aren't quite ready to challenge for the title yet.
Yeah, I kind of disagree with that, because I think the game against Arsenal was sort of like a galvanising thing for the supporters as well. It was a brilliant... we were in the stadium. We were lucky enough to be there pitch side. It was fantastic. It was great. I know you didn't like it, but everybody else did. It was like a proper contest, very combative, and Chelsea getting over the line with 10 players, I think, sort of sent a message that, you know, there is something about this team. The problem is that there's usually something about this team in the massive games that they really have to perform in. And then they play Leeds and Bournemouth and they don't have the same spirit and the same energy. And you've got to get that week in, week out if you're going to be top title contenders. I mean, it was interesting, Charlie, you said, I like Maresca, I like what he's trying to do. Do you not think that sometimes in his bid to sort of rotate and manage his squad, he's a little bit of an over-tinkerer?
Yeah, I do think. I think he's not been able to. Well, he doesn't keep the same team back-to-back games. He likes to make a lot of changes, and that's something, continuity in a team. When you're a player, you want to play and you want to feel rhythm, and it is difficult when you're chopping and changing a lot. But when you got Palmer at injury, for me, he's been brilliant for them, and you know, he makes them a different team. But again, I go, let's say you get a brilliant point against Arsenal. Is it a mentality? Leeds, Bournemouth, is that the difference between your Arsenals and your Man Cities and your Liverpools, that the mentality of the team is that we know how to win titles, we know how to win championships, and that'll come with the more experiences that they've had as a group and as a team. But I think if Maresca can try and get a stable team, 13, 14 players, and not deviate away from that too much, then I think it will help the group going forward.
Real Madrid take on Manchester City. It's a big glamour tie for Pep Guardiola in Madrid. Manchester City, I'm sure, will be relishing given the uncertainty that's surrounding Real Madrid currently. Only 2 points behind Arsenal now in the league. And the narrative around Manchester City this season, that they can't win the league because they're so leaky at the back, but are keeping scoring the goals at the other end, might just change over this Christmas period, Crook.
Yeah, it was a really good performance the weekend against a team who I thought would prove a tricky opponent. Didn't turn out that way. I think the biggest positive for Pep Guardiola is that Erling Haaland didn't score and they still won with ease. I thought Rayan Cherki was absolutely sensational. He's got so much individual quality, and that Rabona assist is going to go down as one of the passes of the season. Phil Foden seems to have found his rhythm again just at the right time, not just for City, but maybe in terms of getting in that World Cup squad next summer as well. And as you say, this is a good time, I think, to be going to Real Madrid, because I've read a lot in the Spanish media about the unrest there, about the fact that Xabi Alonso is fighting to save his job. So I think this is a real opportunity for City to get what would be a statement result.
Yeah, that Rabona cross, Charlie Adam, ever try anything like that?
No, unfortunately not. No, I'm not sure I can get away with it. When I seen that, the first thing that popped in my head was David Dunn's effort. Remember when he fell over?
Yeah.
That was, I remember that. But
that was at Blackburn, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was at Birmingham at the time. But anybody listening to this, go on YouTube and type in Ryan Cherki training with France under 21s, and he does a shooting drill, and he scores some of the best goals I've ever seen. So, like, this guy is a talent. I've seen him play for Lyon against Rangers a couple of years ago, and he was in the same team as Paqueta and things like that. And he's a wonderful talent. But Pep didn't want to give him too much plaudits for his Rabona, but he said, "Listen, this boy's a talent, but he has to do more off the ball, and has to get used to the Premier League and how Man City want to play." But wow, it's incredible, and that's the personality he's got, and you need people that in the team and in your group to make things happen out of nothing. And I just hope he can get a good run in the team now. But he's a special talent, and when you've got somebody like him beside Foden, then this Man City team will start to motor now. And I still think they're the team to beat in the Premier League, and I've said it. You can never rule Man City out.
I absolutely agree with you. I think that they are a team that can put a run together in the second half of the season as well. They're used to doing that. They know that. Okay, there's a few personnel changes, and it'll be interesting to see whether the new boys can settle and get into that same mindset. But there's enough there that have been through it before. And I think Pep Guardiola is getting them to that point where they'll be focused. They will tighten up as the season comes towards its end. And I think they'll give it a very, very, very good go of chasing down Arsenal. And with the gap only being 2 points, and the meeting, I think they meet now, don't they, Crook? Tell me if I'm wrong here. I think they meet in the next game after when do they meet? I was going to say after the transfer window, but maybe that's not true. We'll see. Anyway, when they do meet, it's going to be an absolutely huge clash. We mentioned Phil Foden and the fact that he is looking a little bit more like the PFA Player of the Year that we saw the other season. Why do you think that he has grown in stature again and started to come to the fore?
Well, probably only Phil Foden really knows the answer to that question, because it was perplexing, wasn't it, the way that his form tailed off, not just last season, but actually his demise decline started at the European Championships, when obviously England fans sung a song in his honour, but he just never got going in that tournament. And I do think he suffered a little bit of a Euros hangover as a result, but he's certainly right back in the groove now. And a few weeks ago, if you'd have asked me, will he be part of Thomas Tuchel's squad, I probably would have said no, but I think he's a shoo-in now to get himself a place on the plane. I think he's going to have a massive role to play for Manchester City between now and the end of the season. That Arsenal game, by the way, is not until mid-April, so 6 games before the end of the season. Could be absolutely.
Oh, that is going to be a title decider. Yeah. In fact, we've done one of those before, haven't we, Crook? I think I did the one where Kevin De Bruyne and Erling Haaland ripped them a new one a couple of years ago, just like bang, 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 finish them off. It was a brilliant game. Be fascinating to see what happens. Arsenal will be hoping that everyone's fit by the time they get there, because they've had a few problems with defensive partnerships over the last couple of weeks. Mosquera obviously picking up an injury as well to go with Saliba and Gabriel, which has obviously hurt them. Yuri and Timber playing this weekend as an emergency centre half. And look, him and Hincapié are very, very good defenders, but it is a drop-off from those two. And after the game against Aston Villa, I spoke to Mikel Arteta, and I thought he handled the situation, Charlie, really well. He sort of played it down. We're going to get defeated. We're going to lose. We're going to drop points. That is what is going to happen in the title race. But our job is to stay calm and to make sure that we keep laser focused on our goal. Shouldn't really be that much of a surprise. It was never really going to be a procession, was it?
No, it was never. The Premier League doesn't allow you to do that. It's unless you're incredible at the levels that you are, like Man City have done over the years, and Liverpool winning the title. But for Arsenal, they're still trying to build, and they're progressing every year, week on week. They're getting better, but they've lost 2 centre backs. The pairing is the best centre back pairing in Europe at the moment. So that's a huge miss to them, because a big part of what they do, set plays for and against, which are massive. So no, I think for Arsenal, if they can get through that period and still being in around the top of the league, and maybe even if Man City go above them, but they're still in touching distance with that, then I think they'll be in a good place going into January, and getting their better players back fit again would definitely help them.
Crook and I are very good at giving each other stick for our crap predictions, but we're also very good at highlighting the ones that we've done okay with. They're few and far between, but Crook's one that he's suggested now that Manchester United might finish in the top 5. Hey, Crook, that looks all right now, doesn't it? That looks okay. It didn't a couple of weeks ago, but it's sort of getting there.
It looks all right this week. Let's see what happens in the next week.
And my Manchester City for the title one is looking okay now. It's all right. It's not too bad. You're not jibing me for that anymore, are you?
In fairness, you've never deserted them, even when it looked like Arsenal might run away with it. Listen, I'm still going to come down on the side of Arsenal. I don't think losing to Aston Villa away from home is an absolute disaster, and I think they've got a kind run of fixtures in December. 4 out of their 5 Premier League games are at home, which I think is a bonus because they're pretty much imperious at the Emirates. Yes, their form away from home has tailed off lately, but again, Chelsea in a derby, not a terrible point. Sunderland away from home, not many teams are going to go and win there. And Villa, as I've mentioned. So I think Arsenal have margin for error. City don't really, because they've already lost a number of matches.
Yeah, but the gap is only 2 points. And the problem that Arsenal had last year was not losing games, it was drawing games. And that has happened recently. So I think, as much as we can talk about, Manchester City lose too many matches, but they win a lot of matches as well. And I think that's the key. It's the ratio of the wins that is really important, because you get 3 points for a win, only 1 for a draw, obviously. But that disparity is quite big. Look, Arsenal have built a very deep squad, and I think we all sat there in the summer and thought this is the best squad because it's the most balanced. They've got 2 players for every position. But Charlie, they seem to pick up quite a lot of injuries. Is that because they play at a certain level of intensity? It can't be anything they're doing in training, because I spoke to Declan Rice last week and he was telling me, basically, we do 20 minutes of training a day, no more than that.
Yeah, again, and that's them just prepping for games and tactical stuff, bit of set play. But it's the intensity of the Premier League, the intensity that Mikel wants them to play at. I would like to see. I'd be good to look at the numbers in terms of the stats where Arsenal are in terms of high intensity sprint distance. In the Premier League, it'll be high. They'll be up there, and but they max out on every single game and every single action. So, yeah, that's why they're picking up injuries as well. But again, they're playing a lot of games. The team doesn't change too much either. So, yeah, they want to try and get the best players fit. And I think keeping Declan Rice fit and available for them is a huge factor in terms of how they're playing, because I think since he's gone to Arsenal, his game's gone to a different level, and he's as crucial to Arsenal, to England as any player at the moment, and he's playing at the real top of his game at the moment.
That's really interesting, isn't it? Because what you said there was the team doesn't change that much. And that's a criticism that some of the Arsenal supporters have had of Mikel Arteta in previous years. And actually, with the increase in the depth in squad, many people thought there'd be a lot more rotation. But when I was talking to him about the schedule, I think it was probably a week ago now, and after the Brentford game, I was looking through the squad and I was thinking, well, hold on a second. Brentford have rested all these players for tonight's game, but they've only changed a couple here, Arsenal. And I expect them to change a lot more, by the way, when they go to Brugge in midweek. But things like Christian Norgard hasn't started a Premier League game yet. Could he have not sort of used Norgard to replace Rice or Zubimendi at some point in this season, just to sort of give those players a little bit of a rest, just to sort of mitigate against the chances of injury? Could maybe Ben White have played in the team a little bit earlier, just to rotate one of those centre halves or the right back out, so that they could have just taken the pressure, the load off maybe Mosquera or Gabriel or Saliba? Could that have been possible, Crook? Has he got to get better at that? Has he still not quite got his rotation right?
Yeah, it's a criticism we've levelled at him in the past, particularly when it came to Bukayo Saka. He got a bit better with him, actually. He does come off in games now, and wouldn't surprise him if he sits out one of these two this week, either in Belgium or against Wolves at the weekend, which is a game you would expect Arsenal to win with relative comfort. The Gyökeres situation fascinates me because Aston Villa, away from home, tough opponents, as we've said. I know he's not been fully fit in recent weeks, but the fact he went with Mikel Merino again up front when Gyökeres is back in the squad, I think tells me that he still doesn't have complete faith in Gyökeres when it comes to the big games, and I still expect him to get most of his goals against the Leicesterites in the Premier League, as he tended to do in Portugal.
I think the Premier League is so competitive and it's so intense. I don't think you can actually drop or change too many because of what the levels are and where Arsenal are in the league. They want that role because they know Man City are always going to come good and stuff like that. But for Gyökeres, sports science are probably going to say to him, listen, for the long period of him, maybe he's been carrying a niggle or an injury, for the long period to keep him fit and available for the rest of the season, you can't throw him straight back in. Maybe he needs 20 minutes here, he needs half an hour there, just to build him up again to get going. So there's a lot goes into what managers are getting told on a weekly basis from the sports science or the medical team to say, if you put him in, he's at risk of re-injuring or doing this. So I just think because of the intensity of the Premier League there is moments, but I think, like I say, for Champions League, Arsenal in good place. Maybe they will leave a few out tonight, and then they can look at the weekend as well, because you would expect them to beat Wolves. But no, there's a lot goes on to trying to pick a team.
And do we underestimate the intensity of the Premier League in comparison to the other leagues across the world? Because if you look at Gyökeres, who's fantastic, not only in Portugal, but did a brilliant job in the Champions League as well. And we say that he scored against the Leicesterites. He got a Champions League hat-trick against Manchester City last season. You look at Florian Wirtz, who was absolutely terrific at Bayer Leverkusen, unstoppable, even played brilliantly for Germany in Euro 2024. And you look at someone like Benjamin Šeško, who again, great numbers in Leipzig, good goal scorer, good physical specimen. But all these players come to the Premier League and it's very difficult for them to hit the ground running. It takes a very special player to do that. Now, different players adapt in different ways. Some of them physically are up to it right from the very start. But do we underestimate just how hard this league is, Charlie?
Yes, but I do think about these signings have gone to the elite level. They've gone to the elite clubs where the pressure is. And I've said it before. I've said it with Wirtz. I've said it with Kerkez at Liverpool at the moment. You could be 6 out of 10 and get away with it. At Liverpool, you can't. You need to be 8, 9, 10 out of 10 every week, and that's the level and the consistency you have to be at. So again, for Šeško going to Manchester United, he's judged straight away. Gyökeres, he's judged straight away being Arsenal's number 9. The money they spent, it was the number 9 that they said they all needed. He was going to be a goal scorer. It takes time to settle. He's played in the Championship for Coventry. To then go to Sporting Lisbon to come back to the Premier League, it's a big step up in his career. So it does take time, and it'll take, the a lot of the foreign players or come. It takes them 6 to 8 months to sort of a season, maybe even just to get used to the Premier League. So I think, like I say, the tough times are ahead for some players, but some will start to grow in the next few months, getting used to the intensity and the level and playing for these big clubs.
What was it like for you when you first turned from Blackpool to Liverpool? What was it like, that transition? Did you find the pressure really difficult initially?
I didn't, not the pressure. I felt the pressure to impose myself, but also to show that I was a good player to the top players, and that's what. But I was used to pressure as a young player playing for Rangers, big club. I understood how to win and needed to win every week. That was the reasons why. But for me, it was more about trying to impress the senior players that were in the teams, Gerrards, Carragher's, Pepe Reina, Dirk Kuyt, people like that, to go, you know what, I'm good enough to be here. And that was just a self-conscious thing that I had to prove. But it took me 4, 5, 6 weeks to really feel comfortable within the group.
Yeah, well, it took Crook. We first got him into talkSPORT in around about 2013. He didn't make his mark until 2019-20. You know, it took him 6, 7 years just to get in there and show everybody what he could do. And now he's the chief football correspondent. Look at him now. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Appreciate that.
Pleasure as always.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you. And Crookie, I will see you on Friday for 10 till 1. We'll do the podcast before that to build up to the weekend's Premier League action. All the Champions League action is live on talkSPORT this week. Tuesday night, Bayern Munich, Sporting Lisbon, Inter Milan against Liverpool, and Tottenham against Slavia Prague. Leverkusen against Newcastle is live on talkSPORT on Wednesday night. I'm going to that one. I can't wait. It's going to be exciting. Club Brugge against Arsenal as well. There's Conference League and Europa League action on Thursday, and we'll be back to preview all the weekend's action by then. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to Premier League All Access from talkSPORT. Tell all your friends about us.